Well, here we go, a brand new season and a new year.
Hey, it's a whole new millennium, and we've got some new tricks for an old flathead.
So stay with us. Today on Horsepower TV, the Ford Flathead, one of history's most monumental motors. They're hot again, and we'll build one with some nifty nostalgic pieces and some high-tech bolt-ons like a Supercharger. Then we'll test our build-up's benefits on a state-of-the-art dyno. And a hot rod face-off featuring a 5-window coupe from the last millennium versus a modern rod from the new one. So hang on for Horsepower TV.
Hey man, what do you got here?
Well, everybody who's been around hot rods long enough knows that anything old becomes new again. I guess this Prowler is Plymouth's high-tech approach to our hobby. Might be for the guys who have time to write the check but don't have time to spin wrenches. We'll play with this thing a little bit later on.
But first, check this out. Rods like this are what got it all started. Now, this is a nostalgic 34 Ford that was actually built back in the 50s. Up front, it's got a full-house flathead Ford with a brace of Stromberg 97 sitting on that Fenton intake.
Now, the old flatheads enjoyed a comeback thanks to new technology, and today we're going to combine the old and new and build our own with a kit from Motor City Flathead.
That's right. Now, we're going to help out both the reliability and the power by strapping on this blower and a high-tech electronic ignition. But first, what do you say we take a trip to Dundee, Michigan, where machining that kit is what's going to make it easy for you to build a better flathead.
The Flathead wasn't called a Flathead until after its production run from 1935 until 1952. That's when it powered the first real hot rods of America from coast to coast, from the dry lakes to the drag strips. With the advent of muscle cars in the 60s, Flatheads practically faded away. But today they're hotter than ever, the power plant of choice of street riders who want the nostalgic look and feel of a real Flathead. No one appreciates that more than Mark Kirby.
So a lot of those guys are reliving their childhood. I mean, they just cut their teeth on this, and everybody wants to stay young, you know.
As owner and founder of Motor City Flatheads, Mark's become known nationwide as the Flathead Guru. From his turnkey engines, like the one he built for Tim Allen, to his vast line of improved Flathead parts. We spent a couple of days here and learned some secrets to overcoming common Flathead problems like overheating. Now, this core sand was extracted from one old block, sand which could settle into water jackets and obstruct flow. Mark makes sure every vintage block machine here is not only baked, but also carefully cleaned of this core sand.
So getting a clean block and having the gasket sealed pretty much eliminates any overheating problems.
Torque plates are used in all boring, and here he's disproved some old Flathead folklore that said thick cylinder walls were needed to avoid overheating.
Well, remember, the thicker cylinder wall acts like a heat sink. It retains the heat. So thinner walls really cool fine.
Another Flathead problem was in the oil filtering system, or lack of it.
These things didn't have an oil filter system on it. And in later years, they added a canister up here, but Ford called it a partial flow filter. They didn't call it a full flow. So when you take these apart, a lot of times you'll pull the intake and you'll have sludge this thick on the intake.
Mark has developed this full flow system you'll see more of later that reroutes oil to a remote filter then back to the block. Poor breathing was another notorious nemesis, and Mark's airflow research has yielded power-producing porting techniques.
The real downfall on a flathead is the ports, obviously. I mean, they just don't breathe and they don't make horsepower. So what we have to do is go in and do an extensive amount of work to make any kind of power. We know that we want a big, flat floor, flows the best air, and we go to about a 1.7 valve on the intake. Stock is 1.5.
The result of Motor City Flathead's mission of building a better Flathead is a parts line that includes everything from a main cap strap to prevent broken mains to an aluminum 3-ring piston replacing the original that had 4. The oversized valve guides he uses help prevent oil leaks, another foible of the old Flathead. And Mark makes his own crankshaft with a 4-inch stroke just like in the old Mercuries. He's got everything from improved heads to wire looms to give this classic monumental motor even better looks and much more horsepower.
Just remember one thing, Real hot rods don't have valve covers.
Now we're going to start putting together our Retrotech Flathead right after this, so stay with us.
For the latest news on Horsepower TV, check us out online at horsepowertv.com.
All right, welcome back to the show. Well, here's our block back from the machine shop and ready for assembly. Now, this thing started out with 239 cubic inches, but after our bore and stroke combination, of course, we've got 305.
That's right. Now, the first step we want to do is drop in the crankshaft, and we're going to leave the rear main seal out. This way we can check everything for straightness. Install the main caps, torque the bolts down, and give the crank a spin. With that checked out fine, now we can install the camshaft. Before installing the camshaft, though, give the bearings a good coat of assembly lube, and don't forget to install the oil galley plug. Now, you'll notice that without the crankshaft in the way, well, this camshaft is a whole lot easier to install.
The original Flathead used a rope-style seal like this one you had to soak in oil overnight, and it still leaked. So to solve that problem, Mark Kirby's come up with this new Kevlar seal that's been impregnated with graphite. Now, it fits inside this case here, and after a good liberal coating of silicone, you just drop it in, make sure it's good and snug, a dab of oil, and we're ready for the crank.
Hey, you about got those mains lubed?
Yeah, man, you're good to go.
All right, we're going to go ahead and drop in this crankshaft. There we go. And then I'm going to show you a piece of hardware that's going to buy us a little bit of extra bottom end insurance. As you can see, there are only 3 mains supporting that flathead crankshaft, so we're going to add this billet steel strap to the center cap to help bolster things up a bit. Now, the cap and the strap bolt in together as a unit. Torque all the main bearing bolts to 100 foot-pounds, then just finger tighten the center bolt and stake it to keep it from backing out.
Now remember, our Flathead is going to be supercharged, so the kit we ordered comes with these rods and Ross forged pistons. Now we have to assemble them with these wrist pins that go through the piston, then through the rod itself. And we use these spiral locks to keep them in place. For rings, we're using a total seal set that includes this Molly top ring, a unique 2-piece second ring set that's machined to fit together and really contain compression. For oil rings, we're using these standard scrapers on top of an expander.
While Joe finishes up with those rings, I'm going to go ahead and time the cam. Now, on a flathead, it's pretty simple. The cam is actually indexed so that the cam gear can only go on one way. Simply line up the dots on the cam and crank gear, and here's a little tip for you. Some of the earlier flatheads used a fiber cam gear, and it's still available today. But for performance applications, well, you want to make sure that you use an aluminum one like the one we have.
A small bore engine like this one uses pretty tight end gaps on the rings. We set ours at 14 thousandths. Now, make sure you give these pistons a good shot of oil before you compress them and send them home. Slide the piston in the bore. Square up the ring compressor, then send it home. Hey, here's a pretty fascinating flathead innovation. To clear the small bore, the rod and bolt were forged as one and machined later. In fact, this end cap here is a good bit wider.
Now, a lot of you guys probably have never seen a flathead before, and well, you probably don't know why they're even called that. Well, here's the reason why. It's because of the way the cylinder head is shaped. Now, you won't see any valves or ports inside of here. In fact, all that stuff is actually contained inside the block. Now, the cylinder head really just kind of acts as a cap for the combustion chamber. Now, what do you say we go over here and talk with Joe for a minute? Hey, Joe, how you doing over here?
Pretty good, just putting together the valve train. And it pretty much goes together here on the bench, then drops into the engine as a complete assembly. You start with your valve, slip on the valve guide, shims for proper spring height, spring, retainer, and finally the locks. And that's it.
Wow, that was pretty simple. What do you say we go to the engine and slip them in place? Now, before we can install the valve assemblies into the block, first we have to lube the lifters. There we go. then slide them down into the lifter bores. There we go. Then, keeping everything together, the whole assembly drops in through the valve opening. Now, once it's in place, we use this special bar to compress the spring and slide the horseshoe clip into a groove on the valve guide.
Timing cover can go on next, and that's going to help keep the cam from walking out of the block while we lash the valves. Now to do that, adjust each cylinder individually at top dead center. Insert an Allen wrench to lock the lifter in place, then use a wrench to turn the adjusting nut on each lifter until you have 12 thousandths on the intake, 14 on the exhaust.
Well, we're just about ready to button up the bottom end. Now, we're going to use the Motor City oil pump and filter kit that we saw earlier. Now, it just slides into place like this, and it attaches with one bolt that we're going to torque to 25 foot-pounds.
For the oil pan, we'll use a couple of more of these Kevlar seals. Now, here's a little tip for you. Once you get it in place like this, go ahead and grip the lip of the pan. That'll put some pressure on the seal. Make sure you don't get any leaks.
Well, I've already laid the gaskets in place, and really the only secret here is to put a dab of silicone at each of the four corners to really help seal up that oil pan.
Okay, before we can bolt this pan up, though, need to run a line through it for the oil filter. Got it?
Yeah, I've got it right here. A little bit lower.
All right.
Stick this screwdriver in. Now, flatheads might be forever, but we can't go for that long without taking a break. So we'll be back to finish up our full house flathead right after this. All right, let her down. Clear the oil pump.
All right, welcome back to the shop and to our Ford flathead engine buildup. Well, while you were gone, we bolted up our water pumps. Now we can install this Patrick Mallory electronic distributor. Now it only goes on one way. In fact, this offset key here lines up with an offset slot on the camshaft.
That blower is going to pump up our cylinder pressure considerably, so we're going to have to lower our compression ratio to about 7-to-1. Now we're going to do it with these Motor City heads here, and as you can see, the combustion chambers are a lot larger than stock, in fact 35 cc's larger. Plus they're going to unshroud the valves, and well, that's going to make our motor breathe a little bit better.
There's your gasket.
All right, let me get this head on here. There we go. Now we're going to go ahead and start with the head bolts. They project down into the water jacket, so they're going to need a little bit of thread sealant. We'll torque them to 55 foot-pounds.
Hey, here's a hot new item from Holley. They're in the Supercharger business now. And Motor City mounts one up with their own special intake manifold and drive system. Now we'll pump our motor up with about 8 pounds of boost and top everything off with this Holley 750 CFM double pumper carb. The intake manifold goes on first.
Then the blower attaches with 4 big bolts.
A 6-rib drive pulley attaches to the crank hub and installs as a unit.
The belt is installed next, and this spring-loaded idler keeps the right tension on the belt.
Well, finally, we're ready for that Holley we told you about.
While Joe was mounting up that carb, I went ahead and routed our Taylor wires through these cool stainless wire looms. Now, they're the only ones that'll handle those fat 8mm wires, and they just attach with a couple of header bolts.
Hey, speaking of which, how about these jet hot coated Fenton headers? Hey, let's hurry up and hang this stuff, man. I'm anxious to get this nostalgic flathead on the dyno.
Me too. Let me get this out of your way.
All right.
There we go.
We met Mark at Roush Racing in Livonia, Michigan to dyno our flathead. It doesn't get any better than this. It's a place where R&D has led to championship trophies in just about every category of racing, from SCCA to the Winston Cup Series. And we got the first-class treatment as they strapped our engine to the same state-of-the-art dyno used to fine-tune the Roush race cars.
On a race engine, you need to have repeatability. That's most important. The numbers have to be accurate every time. So when you do a test and you make a change, after you've made that change, you need to know if you made a better change or if it's gone the other way.
Repeatability is vital for a street rod motor too. And after over a dozen pulls, our Flathead's peak torque of 300 foot-pounds almost flattens out, which is perfect for an engine like this.
You got it right at 260 horsepower too. Are you happy with that?
Just what we want. 4 or 5 pounds of boost on those rods. We make 250, 60 horsepower, 300 foot-pounds of torque, right where we want to be for a street rod engine.
And we got that Boulevard Rumble, man. Sounds great.
That's neat, isn't it?
Stay with us. We'll be back with more Horsepower TV right after this.
For more horsepower, join us online at horsepowertv.com.
No. This is the one.
Nuh-uh. I think I hear your stockbroker calling there, Mr. Yuppie. This is the real deal.
Hey.
Oh, hi. Welcome back. You know, you're just in time to help settle an argument. Now, my partner and I have been having a little discussion about which of these two rods would be the coolest one to take on a cruise night.
Yeah, some purists might argue whether this Prowler is even a hot rod or not. I say it is, and they're just jealous. I mean, with cool styling like this, well, you could turn heads as fast as you turn RPMs.
Oh, no. Now, this is the hot rod I want to be seen cruising in. It's an all-steel 34 that's built just like they did back in the 50s. And when it comes to styling, well, who cares about turning heads when you can turn tires instead?
Well, I got something that'll turn tires. How about a high-tech, fuel-injected V6 that makes 250 horsepower?
Yeah, but I've got a low-tech Flathead with 4 Stromberg 97s. Now, they may not be much more than a sophisticated fuel leak, but I bet I can make 250 horsepower on these end carbs alone.
Oh, yeah? Well, I can cruise in comfort in this Prowler. It's got leather bucket seats, air conditioning, and surround sound stereo.
Big deal. I got a canvas-covered bench, and my air conditioning works every time I crank the window out. Besides, who needs a stereo when you can listen to this sweet Flathead instead?
Oh, well, at least I can crank up the stereo.
With its high-tech suspension, the Prowler takes corners like it's on rails.
Well, the 34's got an ancient suspension, and when it goes around corners, it does it on its door handles.
Whenever I go out cruising in this Prowler, we always attract a crowd of admirers.
Well, whenever we're out cruising, well, me and the 34, we got our own following, too.
This Prowler is a lot of fun, but I hate to admit it, there's something about that classic 34 that really spins my crank.
And you know what? As much as I hate to admit it, that Prowler there looks pretty good going down the road too, but it's got one feature that I wish this 34 had.
What's that, a stereo?
No, a cup holder.
Oh, no. Looks like I gotta hang my partner out to dry for a minute.
Well, you're pretty good at that anyway. Tell you what, we'll be back with hot parts and a dry pants right after this.
I sure hope that wasn't hot.
And now Hot Parts, brought to you by CarParts.com. Everything for your car, truck, van, or SUV.
They say what goes around comes around, whether you're talking about trends or tires. Well, here's some retro rubber from Coker Tire Company. Now, they put a classic spin on a modern radial by adding wide white walls and red lines, so they're the perfect match for your retro rod or your restoration. Now, they're available in all popular sizes, and prices start at about $130.
Edelbrock has been an industry leader for many years, and now they're staying ahead of the nostalgia craze by repopping their famous cylinder heads for flathead Fords. Cast from lightweight aluminum, they'll fit 1948 and up 24 stud motors and give them an 8-to-1 compression ratio. They also have extra cooling fins, so for a cool $480 a pair, you can have the hottest ride on the block.
Of course, you can have the coolest mailbox on your block too with these retro repositories from the California Car Cover Company. Now, they come in a variety of really cool designs like this classic 57 Chevy look, or check out this fantastic flame job over here. Well, now you can put a smile on your postman's face and make sure all your deliveries are special with prices starting at under 60 bucks.
Cool. We have a first-class delivery for you next week. Make it a priority. It's the stock car of the future, and we'll go inside an ASA Racer's fuel-injected small block engine and take you through its high-tech undercarriage before we put it on the chassis dyno for the ultimate power test. We'll also take you to one of the nation's top Winston Cup tracks for a white-knuckle, hands-on-the-wheel driving experience. Plus a look at how cool wheels and tires can change your ride's personality.
And remember, high-performance fun is what this show's all about.
He said 34. I gotta go.
No, you're
For information about the products used in today's show and more, check us out online at horsepowertv.com. Horsepower TV is an RTM production.